If you're finding this video to be long, then you probably need it more than anyone. I'm intentionally making this video raw and edited without any animations or sound design so that it acts as a therapy session for your TikTok brain. And it can help you cure your brain rot, which unfortunately most of us nowadays suffer from. In this video, I'll explain content, its types, how do they affect our brains, and what are the negative implications and effects that they can have on us. And in the end of the video, which I urge you to stay and watch until the end, I'll explain practical steps which we can take in order to cure our brain rot and retake control of our focus. So this will definitely have some value to offer you. That's why I really urge you to stay and watch until the end. First of all, what is content? Content is defined as any information that's directed in a form to audience with a purpose. So that's the definition, but who cares really about definitions? So in simple terms, content is the stuff that you publish online. This could be categorized in multiple ways. One way that you can categorize content is according to the purpose that it has. For example, there's inspirational content, educational content, and content that's directed for entertainment purposes. There's also content that has multiple purposes. Another way to categorize content is according to the form that it takes. So there are four main types of content. There's text-based content, such as blogs and tweets. There's also audio-based content, such as songs and music soundtracks. Then there's image content, such as photographs and infographics that you publish online. And finally, there's video content, which is the main focus of this video right here. Examples of video content, of course, are any vlog, an interview, or online course. Now, video content itself could also be categorized in multiple ways, but one way that we're going to mention is according to the length of the video. So you have short form video and long form video. By the way, when I say content in this video, I'm interchangeably using that term with video. So when I say content, I'm referring to video. There's short form video content and long form video content. According to Google, short form video is any video that's less than 10 minutes long. And any video that's longer than 10 minutes is considered long form video. However, just like everything else, this has shifted to two extremes. So usually, long form video content is anywhere between 1 hour to 2 hour long or even longer, such as podcasts and online courses. And short form content is usually 1 minute or less, which is the case in many social media platforms that incorporate short form content. Now, there are exceptions, but this is the normal thing. The thing that has been happening in the recent years is that the short form content in particular has seen a very huge rise. Examples of short form content are TikTok videos, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. There are many reasons that contribute to this vast spread of short form content. But the main contributor for the vast spread of short form content is TikTok. So how did TikTok result in the vast spread of short form content? The story of TikTok, which I won't go into much detail in this video about, but basically the story of TikTok is a story of two halves. In 2014, there were two Chinese entrepreneurs who founded an online app, which was directed to music videos that was mainly used by young adults and teenagers, called Musical.ly. They founded the Musical.ly app in 2014. 2 years later, in 2016, another Chinese company by the name of ByteDance invented another app in China called Douyin. The Douyin app was also music focused and targeted the same audience, young adults and teenagers, and who wanted to publish their own music videos, basically dancing to already existing songs or lip syncing to them. 1 year later, in 2017, the Chinese company ByteDance introduced an international version of the Douyin app and called it TikTok. In the same year, this company, ByteDance, acquired the Musical.ly app for an estimated price of around $1 billion US. What happened next is very important to understand the entire picture and to get a good grasp on short form content. The Chinese company ByteDance merged the already existing accounts on the TikTok app with those on Musical.ly, giving them access to a huge teenage user base internationally, and especially in the United States. So what ended up happening in the next years from 2018 up until 2022, in the span of those 5 years, TikTok has gained an international user base of more than 1.5 billion active users. So that's 1,500,000,000 users active on the TikTok app. This was the fastest growing app and still is. Another information, just to give you the bigger picture, is that every single day nowadays, only in the United States, people are spending upwards of 150 million hours on the TikTok app. So that's just in the United States, just on the TikTok app, 150 million hours spent each day. This is a huge resource that's being borderline wasted on this app. So there are many things that lead to the vast spread of short form content, because after this huge success of TikTok, other apps started following its steps. For instance, Instagram and Facebook introduced Reels, and YouTube introduced Shorts, and now even Spotify has its own version of short form content, and LinkedIn, the old uncle, has also introduced some short form content sort of thing. Why did this happen? This happened because the parties involved, I would like to explain to you who are the parties involved, because to give you the entire picture, I need to go into a bit of detail according to my own experience of more than a decade creating content on YouTube and publishing thousands of pieces of content on other social media. I do know, I've basically seen the entire thing. So what ends up happening is that you have companies who own these apps. For instance, let's give the example of Instagram. Instagram is owned by Meta. When Instagram sees that consumers, or basically viewers like us who view this short form content, give billions of daily hours and billions of views daily to these videos, it ends up promoting it even more. Why is it doing that? Because the media buyers who are paying these companies for their ads to be viewed by users are paying them even more for this huge audience that the company managed to aggregate. So these companies are making money off of our views. So are the media buyers themselves, by the way, because they wouldn't invest in ads and sponsors that are being viewed by the short form video viewers, except if they are making money in return. So any media buyer or any company that has a certain product or service to promote on these social media apps, and they are paying these companies big bucks to promote their businesses, are also making money off of these short videos. So are the creators themselves, because these videos tend to get huge reach, and these creators usually amass huge amounts of followings and engagement. So they are winning too. Now, according to the law of conservation, someone must be losing. And I'll break it to you. The people who are losing are us, viewers and consumers. And the thing that we are losing is the valuable resource of time. Just like I mentioned a bit before, there's basically 150 million hours spent by United States citizens on the TikTok app each day. And there are countries that use the app even more, like Indonesia. So you can just imagine how would that look like. Now, there are many reasons that contribute to the viral spread of short form content, and why is it so attractive for us. I'm listing some of those reasons behind the vast spread of these short form content, such as Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and other types of content. But first, I would like to congratulate you, because you have made some progress towards retaking control of your focus by watching this video up until now. Make sure that you stay until the end, and I'll be explaining practical steps that you can take to retake even more control of your focus and regain your attention span from the grasp of these social networks and short form video apps. One reason that makes these short form video content so attractive for us is the delusion of time, which basically means that when you grab your phone, you're thinking that you'll just watch a couple of Reels or YouTube Shorts or TikTok videos, which each span between 3 to 30 seconds usually. They could even reach 1 minute, but they usually don't. So you're thinking you can watch 10 of those, each at 10 seconds on average, which amounts to less than 2 minutes. But that doesn't end up being the case. When you actually grab your phone, you start scrolling. If you hold it with both of your hands, but if you hold it with one hand, your thumb will start scrolling. This endless motion of seeking more, which will end up with you wasting much more than 2 minutes. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, or multiple hours at times. So the delusion of time makes us think that these videos are short, but they end up compounding. Another reason that makes these apps so attractive and addictive to us is that these apps are designed to be addictive by design. This involves it including some certain aspects. For instance, there's a certain technology called the infinite scroll or endless scroll page. It was invented in 2006, and then the guy who invented it actually regrets inventing it, as he has said that on a podcast. I've linked it in the description box for you to check if you want. Basically, this means that when you scroll social media, you don't need to change to another page. You just scroll down and there's more content for you. It loads automatically. And that is the case in all short-form video apps. You can see for yourself that there's an infinite scroll that never ends. This is a huge factor making it addictive to us. Another factor is that, in contrary to other feeds, for example, you can go on your feed on Instagram, you will see posts from your following. However, when you go to the Reels tab, you see posts and Reels from everyone in the world, regardless of you having followed them or not. So anyone in the world who creates a content, you could see that content. This is another reason that makes it so attractive for us. And by the way, there's also the biochemical process behind it. What I'm referring to by the biochemical process is basically that our brains release certain hormones. Some of those are called happiness hormones, and one of those is dopamine. So when you end up on the Reels tab or on TikTok and you swipe to see another video, what is actually happening is that your brain gets its fix of dopamine. But when the video ends, it needs more. It craves for the next high. So you end up swiping. And you make this swiping motion again and again because your brain is commanding you to do that so that it can get its dopamine fix. This is basically a very good resemblance of the gambling addiction. Statistically, getting addicted to social media, smartphones, and especially short-form video apps has a great resemblance to the gambling addiction, in which your brain gets a high, then craves another high, then craves even a higher one. This is the biochemical process behind it, because our brains crave novelty. And with each new short-form video, you're seeing a new face, hearing a new voice, new soundtrack, new colors, new topic. And this novelty is what our brains love so much. That's why it asks for more. Another reason that makes these short-form content so attractive is the ease of production. You don't need high-end production equipment or high-end editing or even any great idea or script. You just have to take out your phone and shoot a video of yourself, and you can publish it, and there will be viewers regardless. So this ease of production had made it so vastly produced. I'm referring to short-form video in general, on whatever platform it is. There are multiple other reasons that contribute to this. Basically, you can see for yourself that short-form video apps are doing so well because they are getting viewed on smartphones. And the more smartphones are widespread, the more short-form content is. That's why the main design of any short-form content is in portrait, so that it fills the smartphone screen, because most of the viewers, more than 95% of the people who scroll these social media apps, are doing that on their smartphones. The more smartphones there are, the more short-form content there is. That's why I've dedicated another video on smartphone spread and why has it become the most popular device ever. You can watch that video at the end of this one, and I'll be linking it at the description box. So all of these factors are driving factors for the widespread of short form video content. Now, these video content are affecting our brains. We are referring to the attention span now. But first of all, what is an attention span? Basically, attention span is the amount of time that we can spend focused on a single task before getting distracted. So you decide to maintain your focus on a task and you try to learn from it, and you don't get distracted. And once you do get distracted and cannot ignore that distraction, you then shift your focus back to the task. That's basically how we pay attention. Now, the more time, the more attention span, or the longer our attention spans, the more time we can stay focused on a single task before getting distracted. And the more time we can stay focused on a single task before getting distracted, the better our brains process and learn from it. And this is what makes us productive. So let me reverse engineer that for you. We would end up being less productive if our brains don't have enough time to process and learn from information. And this will end up being the case if we have shorter attention spans. And by the way, we are getting shorter attention spans. I'm referring to an article published by Time 10 years ago titled, "You Now Have a Shorter Attention Span Than a Goldfish." I've linked the article in the description box as well for you to see for yourself. According to this article, the Microsoft Corporation had made a research in the year 2000, and they found out that our attention spans had declined from 12 seconds on average to only 8 seconds during the span of 15 years following the smartphone era. So the viral spread of the smartphone led to our attention spans decreasing this much. While the notoriously ill-focused Goldfish, which was on the thumbnail and you have seen for yourself, had an attention span of 9 seconds. So you can basically say that we have become dumber than a fish. And you can imagine that this was the case 10 years ago, before TikTok was even a thing. So you can only imagine how would things be now. It's definitely way worse. So there are multiple things that lead to having shorter attention span, and having a shorter attention span also has many negative implications on our lives. For instance, we end up being less productive at work. Why is that? That is because in order to be productive, you need to stay focused on a task for a good amount of time. But when we are used to shift our focus from a task to another, this means more time spent on the task and more mistakes made while at it. We also end up with more superficial learning because our brains don't go deep enough into the information and just get some on-surface information about anything that it is presented. This will also make us feel like we have lost our memories, while we haven't lost our memories. But what ends up happening is that we don't give our brains enough time to process the information and store it properly. So when we want to recall the information, we are not good at that. And this is due to having a shorter attention span. There are multiple other things, other negative implications of having a shorter attention span. Among those are the negative implications on our relationships, because partners, friends, and family sense it when we aren't being present. So when you are speaking to someone and you sense that they have lost attention and they aren't actually caring about what you're saying, this ends up creating negative effects on the relationship, which harms the relationship and harms us socially. This is a huge deal, by the way. You would love for the other party and for yourself to stay focused while in a conversation. You don't like everyone just losing attention right away. Another negative implication of having a shorter attention span is that our reading skills diminish. And the reason for this is obvious. These short form apps, such as TikTok, you can go on TikTok for hours without reading anything. So how would our reading skills improve? It wouldn't improve. It would actually get destroyed. And that's what ends up happening, unfortunately. There are other implications, bad implications of having a shorter attention span as well, such as finding everyday tasks, essential everyday tasks, boring for us. Because you compare it, your brain compares it to the doom scrolling, to the endless scrolling on social media and getting dopamine hits repeatedly. And when you compare this fast-paced content that the algorithm is sure that you're interested in to everyday tasks, you find the everyday tasks boring and you get bored quickly. This is also a negative implication of the extra consumption of short-form content. Now, I promised you to discuss the cure for this increased short-form content consumption, and now is the time to give some examples of those. One main thing that we can do, first of all, is that we replace some of the time that we spend consuming short-form content, because short-form content is staying. It is here to stay now that we are all addicted to it in some form or another. So the first thing that we can do is start replacing some of the content consumption time in our days with long-form content. Because long-form content does have some advantages that short-form content doesn't have. And by the way, I'm intentionally making this video uncut, unedited, and without any animations or sound design so that it acts as a therapy session for your brain. And that is one thing that long-form content can do as well. Because long-form content goes into depth. So you get more in-depth explanations in long-form content that you cannot get from short-form content. Short-form content, by design, is created to be short. So it has a very short time span in which no one can go into deep teaching anything. So that's one way that long-form content is irreplaceable, because if you want some actual value, you usually only get it from long-form content and not from consuming short-form content. Another good thing about long-form content is that long-form content builds authority. So if someone is telling their story, or any story generally, and educating their audience and providing real value to them, they end up usually with loyal followers instead of just spectators that are there for the memes. Which brings us to another point, which is a very good advantage of long-form content, and it is that long-form content is usually more evergreen, while short-form content is usually timely and trendy and loses its value with time. So long-form content could be still valuable after 1 year or 2 years, while short-form content isn't that way, and most people are there for the memes. So you can use short-form content for memes as much as you like, but if you want to deliver some value, you usually have to resort to some sort of long-form content with it. Now, I'm not saying that we should abandon short-form content, just like I said before, but you will need both of them. As for creators, there are also some reasons that make us use long-form content more often. One of those is that long-form content is better for SEO, which is basically search engine optimization, because long-form content includes more, especially written long-form content, but also video includes more keywords. So the more keywords you incorporate into your content, the more spread it can get and the better reach it can have. But short-form content by design can't include many keywords, which is a disadvantage when it comes to this. There are also other reasons to incorporate long-form content apart from what I have said, but basically you will need both of them. Because long-form content, one other thing about it, is that it is workable. You can create one long-form content, one long-form video, you can shoot one long-form video and reuse this video for multiple reels, carousels, and other tweets and any other type of content as well. So you can repurpose it, which is a very good advantage of long-form content in general. By the way, if you are a content creator or a business owner who would like to create content, I can send you an audit of your video content, especially on YouTube, so that you can improve on it and get the best of both worlds, from long form content and short form content. So make sure to DM me and I'll help you accomplish that. I could also help you in your post-production and editing using my own experience on YouTube for more than a decade. Now we'll get into the real deal. This is the end of the video, so if you have watched until now, I'm thanking you. Your brain is also thanking you, because if you can watch this content, this value, and you find some value in it, this is a good step in the right direction. I'm making this uncut, as I have said before, so that you get more used to long form content like this. I know it might seem boring, but trust me, you will find value. And this is the main value that you find from it. What are some practical steps that we can take in order to retake control of our focus, attention span, and brain from social media and short form video content that we are getting bombarded each day on our smartphones? So I already mentioned one step, which is incorporating more long form content into our content consumption time. Another step that we can take is to find and consume more relevant content that we find on social media. So if most of the short form videos that you are watching on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, or anywhere else are irrelevant content that doesn't move a needle in your life and you just watch it for fun, try replacing some of those with more inspirational, educational content as well. This will make the time that you consume watching content partly occupied by long form valuable content, and the part that remains, which you watch short form content, just as I said right now, you can also incorporate some value content into that as well. One other thing that I recommend you do is to use app timers in order to decrease the overall time you spend on these apps in total. So now you spend less time on these apps by using app timers, which are a very great, useful resource. One other thing that you can do in order to improve your content consumption and retake control of your life is that you don't check your phone 24/7. I'm sure that you have a lot of business to attend to and a lot of relations that you need to stay connected to, but at the end of the day, we aren't all Bill Gates. So try to minimize the times that you check your phone throughout the day. Don't check it 24/7. And also turn off notifications in general. So when your grocery delivery service does a 5% discount, you don't really need to know. You aren't going to use it anyways. So turn off those irrelevant, useless notifications, and you will end up spending less time on your phone, which is a huge plus for your life in general. There are other steps that we can take in order to decrease the content consumption and improve our lives on social media and video consumption apps as well. Apart from just decreasing the amount of time that we spend and incorporating quality content and using the smartphone less often, there are some people who have done a certain tactic, which is having phone-free mornings and nights. So what this tactic is basically that when you wake up, the first thing that you do should not be running to grab your phone. And before you sleep at night, the last thing that you do should definitely not be to spend time on your phone. Also due to blue light, which ruins your sleep, by the way. I've also mentioned this in the other video that I mentioned about smartphones, which I'll be linking in the description and at the end of the video for you to watch. One final thing that we can do, and I'm urging you to give huge importance to this, is to restrict and monitor the time that the younger generations spend on their smartphones in general. So if you see a 60-year-old get addicted to short form video, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, what could be the case for a kid, for a 6-year-old who gets addicted to smartphone? You can also only imagine how bad this could turn out. So please keep an eye on them and make sure that no one is getting addicted that young to short form content and smartphone in general. I hope that you found this video to be valuable. You can also watch the other videos and subscribe for more interesting content to come. I'll be seeing you.